Welcome to another episode of Four Season RV. Today I'm going to settle the debate and give the definitive answer to the controversial question, what is a four-season RV? It's finally happening. You're ready to pull the trigger on that RV and your buddy says, you better get the four-season rig. So you think to yourself, yeah, I do need that. You ask the salesman, the one you're looking at as a four-season. He says, sure it is. The walls are constructed with a thermal foil radiant barrier and it has a great R value. So you say, let's do it, and you sign papers. That first night below 32 degrees Fahrenheit and you're ready to throw in the towel. Your windows are covered in frost, your tanks are frozen, the water line ruptured in the basement. You only slept a couple of hours because the noise from that gas furnace cycling on and off all night. You can't use the shower, you can't use the sink, and you have no water. Well, if this was to happen, you likely wouldn't be going again anytime soon, would you? If you're planning on using your RV in all seasons, you really only have a couple of options. You can get a true four-season rig, or you can temporarily adjust by limiting the use of some of the features of your rig based on the conditions of your trip. Either way, if it works for you, then it's really all that matters. And that brings us to the big question that I pledged to answer. What is a true four-season RV? Well, the answer to that is whatever you say it is. You, the consumer, is truly who decides what is a four-season rig. If you're able to use it, then it's a four-season rig. If you adjust your regular rig, you make modifications and you can use it in four seasons, then it's a true four-season rig. If it is marketed as a four-season rig and consumers purchase it, well, then it really is. However, optimally, a four-season rig is a specialized vehicle designed to withstand the challenges of operating year-round in all conditions, from scorching summers to freezing winters, with a chassis capable of getting you to off-road locations and of course back. So if you're out there looking for a four-season rig right now, here's kind of a basic list of things that I would suggest you take a look at. First and foremost, determine how and when you want to use your RV. Everything else will kind of depend on that. So starting with number one, my list kind of differs from a lot of people's because I think it's most important to start with your drivetrain and suspension. Because if your rig can't get you where you want to go, then really you're not going to use it. If you damage it once or twice trying to get where you want to go, you're not going to use it. It's going to be too expensive. You don't want to have to pay for repairs. So I start with a drivetrain and suspension. If you plan on leaving the pavement in any conditions other than summer, I would look at getting all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, optimally all-wheel drive. So you're going to check for ground clearance. You're going to need minimum 8 inches, and that includes all of your sewer drains, your low point drains, anything that's going to stick out and get bumped. I've seen these things snap off completely over relatively mild bumps on logging roads. So body to frame suspension. Traveling over uneven surfaces, especially in an RV, generates enormous torsion or stress. Right? You don't want to transfer that energy to your rig. If so, something is going to break. So a true four-season rig will have the off-road capabilities designed from the architectural stages to diffuse any of these stresses. Water systems. This is every bit as important as the drivetrain. Water freezing in the lines or tanks not only means you can't use it, but it can also cost thousands in damages. Holding tanks. Check your fresh water, your gray tank and your black tank. Are they enclosed in the heated or cooled living space? Optimally, you want them enclosed in a living space. If it's not enclosed in there, then it's really not a four-season RV. It's not a true four-season RV. It doesn't mean you can't use it, it just means it's going to be more difficult to use it. The second best situation would be heating blankets or pads, or a separate 12-volt heater in the compartment where the water lines are, like in a basement or wherever they're tucked. If tanks and lines are not enclosed in the living space, you want to check and make sure that they're ducted. They have some source of heat. 12-volt heating pads and blankets are great, except if you're going to be getting down below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, they're not going to be able to keep up. And if your tanks are exposed to the outside, then at a bare minimum, you're going to want spray foam insulation over them and then of course, wrapping the lines with some type of insulation. One thing a lot of people forget to check are your low point drains. Any low point drains or compartments or any type of sewer drain that is exposed to the outside will also freeze. If those freeze, you're going to have a really unpleasant time. A ruptured sewer line will start leaking the moment it thaws out, and that could be on the road or somewhere else. That's not fun. Also, those type of repairs are really expensive. I have an older van that I got a quote on for replacing the black water tank. I think that alone was $2,500. Also, check for any exposed water lines or valves. Check underneath the RV or outside. Check to all the components, see if you have any lines coming or going. If they're exposed to the outside, they will freeze, and they'll freeze fast. Again, these can be wrapped later on with 12-volt heating pads or blankets, or just basic insulation. Everything helps. Next, check the energy source. And what I mean by that is what provides the heat on the RV. Redundant systems here are best. You definitely want 2 sources of heat if you're looking for a true 4-season RV. However, this is also a double-edged sword. The more sources of fuel you have on board, the more difficult it is to stay out longer. Check what fuel source you have for cooking, heating, cooling, and then also what runs the chassis engine on your RV if you're running with a motorhome. The more energy sources the rig has, the more difficult it is to boondock or stay out for any length of time. Also, carrying propane creates complications in tunnels, ferries, and international travel. But nonetheless, I would shoot for 2 sources of heat for a true 4-season RV. Next, you want to check out the body or the construction of the living envelope. Now, this is going to be dictated by your budget. Of course, all these things are, but the more expensive ones use a different type of construction. So the best setup for this would be something like the structural composites used by Global Expedition Vehicles, which I think now is Storyteller Overland. Winnebago uses the same thing, and I think ARV also uses the same thing. Now, of course, there's different variations of this, but like on the Global Expedition Vehicles, their walls and ceilings were made of a high-strength 2.36-inch 3-ply structural composite core. They had a 15R thermal insulation value with no thermal conduction paths. And that really means there's no metal in them to transfer that cold energy from the exterior to the interior living space. You see a lot of these on what people are calling B boxes, like the Echo. I think Earth Roamer uses carbon fiber version of this. Same thing, just different, little different variation. Also, an interesting little side note: I believe ARV out of Ohio was the first to put the B box into production in the U.S. At least I think so. The B box is, similar to what the Echo is. It's that composite structure box on the Class B van. But I think they were the first ones to put that in production. Now, I didn't mention those guys in episode 2 simply because they're not mass producers. So anyway, these B-box type structures, they're quite strong, they're quite light, and they have a fantastic insulative properties or R value. Something also to keep in mind, find out how the manufacturer calculates the R value. A lot of them will calculate the R value using a thermal conductive wrap in the wall. If that's what they're doing, you might want to take that with a little grain of salt. Not that it's bad, it's just a different construction method. It's not going to insulate as well as the composite boxes. Next are slides. I know a lot of people disagree on this, but if the RV has slides, I don't think it's a true 4-season. They're wonderful, and I really like them when they're parked. The problem is they're really difficult to insulate. You lose a lot of your heating and cooling around the sides or that little rubber barrier. Also, it's really easy for those things to get out of alignment. I've seen them go out of alignment on regular roads. Imagine going regularly down a washboard gravel road. We've already talked about energy sources for your heat, but also take a look at the HVAC system. If you plan on extending your season, you're going to need a larger heater. Warmer climates may only need a 25 to 35 BTU per square foot system, while colder climates you may need a 45 to 60 BTUs. And finally, take a look at the windows. You're going to need dual pane glass for a true 4-season. Well, dual pane something. It could be acrylic or glass. Either one is fine. Single pane is not going to work. If you've ever slept underneath a single pane window in the winter, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So in the RV industry, there is no standard to what is a 4-season. Manufacturers, salesmen, or anyone can make a claim about any product that they produce or sell. Some manufacturers simply increase ground clearance by adding larger tires and call their trailers, vans, or motorhomes off-road capable. Other manufacturers will include an Arctic package or some similar name that wraps the water lines and tanks in some type of insulation, or has a little better window package, or possibly upgraded HVAC system. These certainly help, but they're likely not truly four-season RVs. So the point is, there is no industry standard, and that's why I say you as the consumer ultimately decide what is a four-season RV. If you can use it year-round, technically it is a four-season RV. The industry as a whole does have general standards. The RV Industry Association, also known as RVIA, is an advocacy group for the industry and has developed what they consider to be the basic industry standards for model classifications, construction, safety, and a little bit more. So RVIA is recognized by the American National Standard Institute as a standards developer, even though there is no standard classification for four-season RV. However, there is one company, Truma, I'm sure you've heard of them, that has generated something of a standard for four-season RVs. It is provided at a cost basis, and companies send their rigs to Truma to be tested. So essentially, the manufacturer must want their product to be tested by another company and then cover the cost of freight and testing. Truma is a leading producer of water systems, heating systems, air conditioning, and portable refrigerators and freezers, often used in the RV industry, according to their website. But what they offer is cold weather testing and cold weather certification for RVs. They have what they call a climate chamber located in Elkhart, Indiana, that's large enough to fit a Class A RV. They can simulate any climate within this chamber. Now, according to the Truma website, all tests begin with a complete exterior and interior evaluation to ensure that the RV and all of its systems are in good operating condition. Then they place up to 22 temperature sensors throughout the RV in critical locations to ensure that the system is distributing heat evenly to avoid hot or cold spots. So once they prepare the RV for testing, they temperature soak the RV for a minimum of 10 hours in the climate chamber until the interior temperature of the RV matches the ambient temperature of the chamber. The actual test lasts a minimum of 4 hours to get the RV up to the desired temperature. They use the readings from the sensors to chart a graph of the atmosphere inside the RV and how long it takes for the RV to reach a set interior temperature. This first confirms the ability of the RV to hold the heat and the heating system and is provided into the living areas. So they also measure airflow from each outlet to confirm the balance of the layout and even distribution of the heat. They then use thermal imaging to highlight the areas that may need attention. Using tests based on international standards for certification, RVs can receive either gold standard or silver standard certification. An RV that meets the gold standard starts in the chamber at 5 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 15 Celsius and reaches an internal temperature of 63 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius in 4 hours or less. An RV that meets the silver standard has a starting temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius and reaches an internal temperature of 63 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 Celsius in 2 hours or less. These certifications show the consumer the level of quality behind the construction of the RV and that they can count on reliability and comfort when they find themselves in any conditions while traveling. Now that is all, of course, according to Truma. And then Truma also states, owners of RVs that have earned the Truma Gold Standard or Silver Standard certification can rest assured their RV and Truma heating system will exceed their expectations. Their RV will keep them safe and warm, even in cold weather conditions, opening up the possibility of year-round camping and increased return on their investment. That, of course, is all from the Truma website about their testing standards. Truma also has a list of RVs that have completed their certification system. Now, I don't think this list is comprehensive because I've seen a couple of YouTube videos about from RVing TV, I believe it was, where they're reviewing the 2024 Chinook Maverick on the Ford Transit all-wheel drive chassis. And that one, according to the video, has obtained the Truma Gold Weather certification, yet I don't see it here listed on the website. Perhaps it's too early and they'll list it later on. But here's some of the ones that are listed. The Chinook Summit, and then of course at the end they list what type of heating system they have. The Dynamax Isata 324FW, Ember 170 MRB, Panoramic day floor, the 2023 model, panoramic day floor 2024 model, Winnebago Echo 2021, Winnebago Echo 2022, and Winnebago Solace. Now, one thing we haven't mentioned is safety. Using your RV in winter can be dangerous, especially if you're going to be driving in inclement weather. Accidents can happen to anyone, even the most experienced of us. A great example of this is Jerry at adventure.life on YouTube. If you've checked out his channel, you can see that he had a scary looking accident while towing his fifth wheel. Some of you may have already seen the video, but if not, I put the link down in the description. He and his family are on their second year of full-timing in their fifth wheel. So on Sunday, October 25th of 2020, Jerry was towing his 43-foot Momentum travel trailer with his F450 Super Duty. I believe he's got the 6.7 Power Stroke with dualies. While he's towing, his family is trailing behind in their Jeep, and they're recording this. So they were traveling south from Torrey, Utah to St. George, Utah on Highway 20 over a mountain pass. According to Jerry, they came around a corner over the summit and encountered snow. As the snow started sticking to the road, Jerry begins tapping the brakes to slow his speed as he comes over the summit. So you can see the brake lights on the RV where he's tapping them. So he's doing the right thing there. As he's attempting to slow, he's coming into that corner. You can clearly see his rig lose traction and slide off the left side of the road. So he crosses the oncoming lane of traffic, slams into the bank. At the same time, you can see a 18-wheeler coming towards him. They were able to stop. Now, the good news is nobody was injured here. None of his family members or he were injured. And of course, the truck driver wasn't injured either. I've watched Jerry's explanation video. He put out another video explaining kind of what happened in detail. And I've watched that, listened to his explanation, and even with hindsight, I still think he did everything right. If you've ever driven in winter, you know you can come up on changing conditions, and that's kind of what happened to him. He drove into changing conditions, and then his speed was a little bit too much for the downhill slope, which really illustrates my point that accidents can happen to anybody, even skilled drivers like Jerry. One thing I did notice that his truck was a dually. It's my personal opinion. I think dualies lose traction much faster in the snow than single wheels do. And I think that's also why a lot of the expedition rigs switch over to a super single as opposed to dualies. And really, you can't watch that video of Jerry's accident without feeling for him. Even though no people were injured, I can't imagine how much that cost to have all the repairs done to both his rig and his fifth wheel. Anyway, good luck, Jerry. Hope you stay with it. So in conclusion, it may be dangerous, but it's certainly worth it and still a lot of fun. And remember, the more comfortable you are, the longer you'll stay out, and the more you use your rig. And like always, thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. We'd also love to hear from you. Tell us about your experiences in the comments. And again, it really helps us if you like and subscribe.